Sukkah, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Yud Aleph. Ho'ise sukkah soikim in srif. Someone who makes their sukkah like a hut, might call that a wigwam, coming up to a point. The walls were made of material kosher v'schach, and it goes up to a point. Oishes mochel keisel, or he was leaning the schach at an angle to a wall. Rabbi Eliezer says such a sukkah is possible. Bipnei she'ein lo gag. You cannot differentiate, and it's not recognizable, what is a wall and what actually is the schach, the roof, what is the gag. And therefore, this is not permitted as a sukkah. Explains the Bartanura, if, for example, there was a horizontal piece of schach, 1 tefach wide, then one could consider the sloping part to be, certainly the lower part of that, to be considered the wall. The top part would be an extension of the roof, the gag on top. And as long as that area was at a height above 10 tefachim and incorporated 7 tefachim by 7 tefachim below, that would be therefore part of the extended roof, the gag and the extended roof. The rest would be considered the walls of the sukkah, and that would therefore be kosher. Chachomim machshirim. However, the Chachomim say it doesn't matter. One does not specifically need this tefach on top. One can have a sloping schach. Part of it would be considered the wall, and the upper part would be considered the schach. The Mishnah continues. Machatzeles konim, if one had a reed mat. Now matting, as it's made from reeds, could be as a bed, lishchiva, to lie on, in which case it could become tomei and therefore would not be permitted for schach. Or this reed mat could be for shade purposes, in which case that's perfectly in order, as it's from reeds, to be used for schach. Says the Mishnah, machatzeles konim, this reed mat, gedoyla, if it's larger than the size of a normal bed, then that generally would have been made for shade purposes, not as a bed. The default position would be for shade purposes, and it would be permitted. However, aso'o lishchiva, if this larger reed mat was specifically made for sleeping purposes as a bed, mekabeles tumah, it would be makabel tumah, even at that larger size, va'ein mesachim bo, and it could therefore not be used for schach. The sikuch, and what this means is a smaller reed mat, sufficient, let's say, for sleeping purposes, just the size of a standard bed. That generally would be for a bed for sleeping, and therefore would not be permitted for schach because it could become tomei. However, lesikuch, if a smaller sized reed mat was specifically designated for schach, then mesakchim bo, it could be used for schach, ve'eno mekabeles tumah, it would not become tomei. It could not become tomei. Rabbi Eliezer disagrees. Although we don't paskin like Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer says, achas ketana v'achas gedola. It doesn't matter whether it's small, the size of a bed, or larger. Aso'o lishchiva. Generally, reed mats are made for sleeping. And if that's the case, mekabeles tuma, the reed mat would become makabel tuma. It could become tome. Ve'ein mesakchim bo, and it cannot be used for schach. However, whatever size the reed mat is, lesikuch, if the person designated and said, this will be, I'm making this reed mat for schach purposes, for shade, then mesakchim bo, it can be used for schach. Ve'ein mekabeles tuma, and it cannot become tome. That concludes the Mishnah and the first parak.